All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Crypto Crayfish. Today, we've got some exciting updates for you. I'll tell you why most everyone on Twitter is wrong, as per usual. I'll tell you why we might be seeing some alt capitulation and maybe your Ethereum is not going to $10,000 immediately like someone told you. I'll tell you about altcoins. I'll tell you about what I think is next for Bitcoin and why I'm bored out of my mind, but trying to stay excited because I think good things are coming next. We'll talk about price targets, and then most importantly, we're going to talk about when to sell, guys. We're going to talk about my kind of full rest of the year picture and what metrics I'm using to know when to take profits in the short term and then in the long term. All right, let's hop in. So first, I want to start with what's been going on with Bitcoin. Okay, we had that strong move to 123, and since then, it's really just been kind of chilling. And yes, dropping from 123 to 116, I still consider chilling. It's going to happen when you move vertically. That stuff goes down. So let's talk a little bit about what I'm seeing here. This is a symmetrical triangle pattern that we actually have broken out of. And I can draw this for you in a few different ways. And I've drawn it 1,000 different ways myself. The first way I want to do it is connecting these wicks. And you take this angle. Okay, so we're going to connect. This is kind of the cleanest way I've come to. It's like essentially the candle top for the first one, this wick touch for the second, and then the candle closes for this third. You can see we're looking at the 4-hour view, and I'll look at the 1-day view as well. But this paints a pretty clear picture of a breakout yesterday and then some pretty strong retesting going on where we're actually wicking below the line, but we're not closing down there. Okay, so to me, this looks like, let me draw the bottom bound for you all as well. We're going to start at this wick, connect all the wicks here. One did go beneath, and you got something like this, okay? So this to me looks very bullish. It's a we're at, how many days have we been in this trend? We got here on the 10th, okay, and it's now the 24th. So we've been in this 2 weeks, guys, which is positive. I think the longer you're in a consolidation like this, especially near all-time highs, the more likely you are to have a violent move out of it. But frankly, it's been super boring. And the way I've been dealing with that is to remember a saying that goes in a lot of markets, but especially in the crypto market, which is never short a boring market, guys. Because a boring market usually means that there's buying pressure kind of holding it where it's at, and it's just waiting for the spark that's going to light that dynamite, right? People have not been following that advice. We're at highest short level we've been since the last huge move up, and it's right at those same levels before that 10K move in almost 2 days, right? So I think we could see some aggressive move. We just got this back test. I think once you clear 121 with strength, shorts are going to be underwater. The last level they can try to hold is 123, and then from there, it's just, they're sunk. So that's what I'm seeing. If let's be really conservative with this line, and we'll go to the very tippy top of the wicks. It still shows a similar picture of kind of this breakout and retest going on. And I'll show you on the 1 day here, just so you can see it, because sometimes it's helpful to zoom out that much. And here you can see, we've got these wick connections, and you can see a pretty clear close above, come back, close at the support, and then we've just started a new one. So again, that looks pretty positive to me. And if you actually wanted to connect the candle bodies on the 1 day, you could. And it would look something like, right around there. And that also looks pretty good. You get more of the wick kind of testing it, and we're not really even quite down there yet. So I think short term, we can expect to start moving on Bitcoin. It just has been really slow. And if you're bored, I agree. I'm in the same boat. I'm excited to get the show on the road. At the same time, though, you can't really blame it, right? Like, this move was pretty dang aggressive. It happened in 1, 2, 3 daily candles, basically. And, if you just measure the course of those 3 days, it was to the tune of almost 10%. So, Bitcoin's pretty big to be moving that much. If the stock market moved like that, people would be shocked. So you got to give it a little bit of time to consolidate. And the fact that, people keep saying, I keep seeing, like, we're going to test 114, we're going to test 112, we're going to retest the breakout at 110. Like, the fact that we've just been holding this pattern super solidly is really nice to see. I think that's good strength. Okay, let's move on to alts, because a lot of people have been getting fleeced, right? And Ethereum is kind of the big reason. Okay, you can see this. We've been moving up gradually, but starting back here on about the 9th, so right about when Bitcoin was topping out, Ethereum started to move. That's something that often happens with alts, is you'll see them, once Bitcoin is chopping around near all-time highs, they will start to move and capital will rotate to where is most interesting. Now, this is a strong move, right? Ethereum got a move of almost 50%, okay, from high to low here. In the course of, let's see, again, 2 weeks. Yep. So that's 25% return a week. It's a pretty nice average. So yeah, Ethereum's been moving, and I've seen all sorts of crazy price targets. I've seen people calling for all-time highs, all this stuff, and we're starting to pull back. And we've already pulled back to the tune of 8%. And I think people are a little bit in denial of it. Everyone's calling for alt season. Most influencers I've seen online are ready for everything to go to the moon, and I just don't think we're there yet, guys. It's not that I don't think that is coming. I do think altcoins, which if you don't know are anything but Bitcoin, will outperform Bitcoin. That traditionally happens at the very end of the 4-year cycle, right? But that usually happens when Bitcoin tops out for the cycle. And then it kind of chops around and altcoins start to go crazy for a few months before we put in the top. Okay, it gets really speculative and bubbly. I don't think we're there yet, partly because Bitcoin is not very overheated. Okay, we'll talk about that when we get to risk levels. But that's one reason I don't think Bitcoin is anywhere near topping out yet for the cycle. And so therefore, I don't think it's really time to rotate all the capital, a bunch of capital from Bitcoin into altcoins. The other reason is the Federal Reserve, right? We're not in quantitative easing yet, as much as we kind of have loosened monetary policy. I don't think we're in the environment for full-blown euphoria yet. My guess is that Bitcoin will top out sometime near October, maybe November, and then you get a 1 to 2 month alt season after that. Okay, so that doesn't mean that alts can't have a great run, right? I was in some Solana this week. We got a pretty nice move up to 206. XRP's been killing it, put in new all-time highs, right? But I've seen a lot of people calling for Bitcoin dominance to go down persistently and alt season to begin, and that's just not where we're at. And let me prove it to you, okay? So I've had this line drawn for forever. I haven't moved it, okay? And you can see we can just extend this bad boy, right? And I'm trying to line up everything. This one goes a little bit below, but overall that's pretty dang accurate. And we smack dab hit that trend line, right? and we have not broken out below it. Okay, we're in fact bouncing straight off it. And so when I see people misdrawing this chart and showing something that makes it seem like, oh, it's cracked and we're going to get a massive alt season as Bitcoin dominance drops to 45%, it pisses me off because it's people misleading others in order to get rich themselves. For the record, even if we had cracked this line, we did it back in November, and then we got smoked to the upside. Okay? Altcoins were not a good place to be in right here. And if you had called alt season, you would have gotten wrecked. So my point is, I don't think we're there yet. I actually think we're going to get maybe a few more weeks of running for altcoins, and then I think we're going to get a bit of a sell-off as Bitcoin dominance, comes back up to higher levels, not necessarily a new high, maybe a new high, and then I think we roll over as we start to get Fed loosening and Bitcoin topping. Okay, that is my base case scenario, and let me show you an example of one of the tweets I'm talking about. I don't want to call anyone out. Overall, I really like this guy's content, but this is a great example of what I'm talking about. Right? He's talking about Bitcoin dominance. Will you please kindly stay off this channel of doom and go back down to 45%? Right? And he's drawn the line, showing a breakdown below and then clear resistance where it's at right now, which is just not accurate. If you look at the 5-year chart, right, this is about as accurate as I can draw. Okay, so I just want to warn you guys about those misinformers. And a lot of calls of to the moon will happen, and you need to be able to parse out who is being honest with you and who is just fighting for their own agenda. Okay. That said, I mean, the S&P is at all-time highs. It's pushing. I think we can continue to see crypto do really well. I just think Bitcoin is going to continue to outperform for a little bit longer before we actually get the full alt season everyone wants. Okay? Now, let's move over here. I mentioned briefly that Bitcoin is not overheated where it would be considered traditionally before altcoins start to run aggressively, right? And this is good proof of that. Right now, we're at below 0.6 risk on Bitcoin, okay? Traditionally, let me show you here. We can show you historical risk levels. And you can see over the course of the years, traditionally Bitcoin has topped between 0.9 and 1.1 or 1 and 0.9 risk. Okay? We are nowhere close to that. In fact, if we were to hit those levels again, right, which I don't think we will, right? Do you see how these are lower highs? I think my best guess 0.85 this cycle. Okay? So let's just take 0.85. And to give you an idea, 0.85 risk is all the way up here at almost 200K. Okay? Now, I'm not necessarily calling for a 200K Bitcoin. I frankly think that's pretty aggressive. But all I'm saying is the risk levels are not overheated on Bitcoin at all. You can look at the fear and greed, right? And we can look at the price color coded by risk. Right, here's a good example of, when we top out, we get periods of red for a long period of time. And we're still like in the light green. Okay? I can show you over here. We can look at fear and greed. Okay? You've got this, and you can see that usually during a top formation, it's at 90 or at least above 80 for months. 2 months or something. We haven't even hit that yet, right? We're in the 70s. Okay, so the parabolic move to a blow-off top has not happened yet. Some of that might have to do that social risk is extremely, extremely low, right? You can look at new YouTube subscribers, and you can see just how low we are compared to the past cycle, right? And theoretically, this cycle, the top should be higher than this. Okay, so you can see that a lot of retail, no one cares where we're at right now. And that shows me that we're not overheated, and therefore we're not likely near the top for Bitcoin, which makes me think we're not near full altcoin season. That's just how cycles work. Okay, you can see again, this is short-term bubble risk, right? You can see these really aggressive red spikes, and yes, they're lower highs, so you can expect it to be a little bit lower this cycle, but we haven't even hit red, right? We're in the low green here. I'd expect to move at least to around here. So, all that to say, I think we've got room to run. I think altcoins are probably not your best bet for now. And if you get a profit in them, I would take it quickly. All right, now let's start to discuss a little bit of the plans I have for taking profits, because I'm in a large Bitcoin position, right? As a lot of you know, I'm in almost 90K of actually a 2x fund on BTC. You can tell me why those funds erode, all those things. I've looked into it. It's my strategy that's going to work for me in the short term. It's not how I'm going to hold Bitcoin in the long term, but I think for a parabolic move, it makes sense. Okay. And I will show you how I'm planning on taking profits. Okay. So I want to pull this email up for you guys. Okay. So hopefully you can see this. I basically have put together these 5, I guess, categories that are going to help me take profits during this trade. Okay. I want to point out what trade I'm talking about, right? That would be helpful. So let's look at Bitcoin past cycles to do this. We're going to go over here. And I want to point something out to you, which is during every post-halving year we have had a run of between 7 to 8 weeks through the summer of aggressive Bitcoin returns before a correction. Okay? I'll prove it to you. Let's go over here to 2021. July. We get this bottoming. We got 1, 2. Here, let me make this a little bigger for you. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 was a little bit red on the weekly. 7 was basically the top. Technically the beginning of 8. Okay? 8 weeks. Strong move from a low to a high to the tune of 71%. More. Almost 75%. Okay, let's go back to the cycle before, 2017. Right, we're looking at 2017. Okay, you have to zoom way in because Bitcoin was crazy volatile during this period. All right, we get this low, first green week, also in July, might I add. 1, 2, the second week was a little lackluster. 3, 4, 5, also lackluster. 6, 7 was the top. Okay, so last one was 8, this one was 7, last one was 73%, this one was 173%. Okay, now let's go back to 2013. Might as well just show you them all. Even though at this point, 2013 is a little bit of difficult data to use because it was a much, much smaller asset. All right, we get this low, right? Mid-July. Almost the same exact week, we start to go green. 1, 2, a little bit down. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, top in the 8th week. This one was to the tune of 89%. Okay, so we have 3 examples, 7 to 8 weeks of a move starting in July, where it's moved between 70 and 170%. Okay, let's look at the current cycle, right? That's what we're all waiting for. Let's go. All right, we are zooming. Got to zoom way out because Bitcoin has been moving exponentially over the years, right? That's why we are in this asset. Okay, here we are. Let me zoom in. Okay, what do you see? Similar pullback with a nice big red wick. This one was a little bit earlier, about 1 to 2 weeks earlier than the other one started. Overall, things are going to rhyme. They're not going to be exact. So far, we have 1 green week, 2 green week. 2 is a little bit lackluster, like we've seen other 2s be. 3 was super strong. 4 was a little bit of a pullback week, kind of consolidation, and we're in week 5 right now. Okay? So, what am I saying? I am saying that based on past cycles, the next 2 to 3 weeks seem like they are likely to be aggressively green, and I plan to take profits into strength near the end of that time period to then rotate into maybe some altcoins, maybe some more Bitcoin on a pullback, which is likely in the second half of August or first half of September. Okay? That is what I'm postulating. Right now, if you're curious, our returns so far, to the wick, we're almost 25%. Where we're at right now, we're almost 20. Yes, diminishing our returns are a thing. Returns get smaller as an asset gets bigger. That is a thing over the market cycles. But to go from the minimum being 73% to now a move of only 20 to 25% seems like a big change. I would expect something more to the tune of maybe around 50%. Okay, and a move of 50% would get you up to 150. Almost exactly. Okay, now I'm not saying I'm going to wait till 150 to take any profits, and on a move towards that area is where I want to be starting to consider taking profits, doing all those things. Okay, so also this is nice motivation, guys. You can see how we talked about buying certain amounts during the correction phase, and look how that worked out, right? This was just back in March and April. So we've been killing it. I hope that you all have been following and have been riding with me. So that's what I think you can expect. I think 2 to 3 more weeks of ideally aggressive movement to the upside and taking profits into that zone. Okay. Now, what am I looking at to take profits? Well, there's the 5 categories. Okay. This is what I put together. If any of these conditions get met, right, I am taking some off the table. If multiple get met, I'm taking more off the table. That is how it's working for me, right? This is a good example. People say make a plan to invest, right? And most newbies don't know what that means. This is what that means. Write it down on paper, have set value so you can't change it. Okay? We just talked about time-based. Okay? 78 weeks from the bottom to local top. Potential scary pullback in week 6. I actually think we're kind of front-running that. We kind of got that in week 4. For this cycle, week 1 was week of June 23rd. So week 7 to 8 is between August 4th to the 18th. Okay? First half of August. Second half of August is traditionally not a great time to own Bitcoin. All right. So that's the time-based, right? As we start to get to those timelines, even if I'm not necessarily where I want to be taking profits, I will probably start scaling out of some of my position. RSI-based, okay? This is, I usually don't use RSI to a T, but I think it's helpful to tell when something is overbought or oversold. Okay, so these are what I have. 92 on the 7-day, 85 on the 14-day, or 75 on the 30-day. We can go to a little checkup. right, of our RSI. And I'll move me. All right, so let's look at, we'll start on a 7-day. It was 92, right? Okay, we're at 61. The reason I chose 92, I'm taking the data for this cycle, okay? And traditionally, on aggressive moves up around local tops, this one was 98 almost. This one was 95. This one was 92. This one was 93. And this one was 92. Hence, 92, I think, is a nice conservative estimate. Okay? So, if we get up there, taking profits, right? Not all, but some. 14-day, right? If it gets above 85, that's what we said. Oh, and the 7-day right now is in the mid 60s or low 60s. This is at 63.7, right? 75 is traditionally where we've had tops, right? This one went all the way to 84. This one was 80, right? This one is 87. This one is 87, right? But like this one, our most recent, was just above 75, 77. This one, which, we just got to actually at 119, and this is actually before I created this system, but was briefly over. Oh, sorry, this is the 14-day. Sorry. Not 75. We're looking for 85 on the 14-day. So 85, that's at 84. This actually made it to 87. This is at 84. This actually went a little bit higher, 89. But we're looking for that 85. Okay? We hit 75, but we're not really there to 85 yet. On the 30 days where we're looking for 75, and this we haven't even got close, right? We're in the low 60s, and you can see these past peaks, 75, 79, 77. So yeah, I feel pretty comfortable if this gets to 75, taking some profits. Okay, that's RSI. So we've gone through RSI, we've gone through time. Price-based, right? I have been amassing price targets and kind of taking certain Twitter and different people who know about the markets, have been in the markets a long time, and I generally trust, taking their opinions and consolidating it into what I think makes sense. We talked about that 150. I think that would be near the high end. Mid is 135 to 141. And then you've got conservative, I think, 125 to 130. Okay? If I'm hitting any of these, I'm starting to take some profits. Okay? Fear and greed base, right? If we get a read of 90, I'm taking profits. Okay? Right now, we've been in the 70s. So we'd have to have some aggressive movement to get to 90. But if we look at the raw values, right? Again, let's look at the data for this cycle. 90. Local top, roughly. I mean, it's not exact, but bulk of the move was done. That's what I'm looking for. This went all the way to 94. Okay. These ones, they haven't really made it that far. This one went to 78. So again, it's not a perfect system, right? This would be a nice local top to take profits at, and it didn't hit anywhere near 90. But that's just why I have multiple, so that I'm knowing if any of these things are getting hit, I'm starting to take profits. Okay? Now, let's go back to this. Our last one is news-based. Okay? July 30th, we have a Fed meeting, which I don't think anything's going to happen. Don't get your hopes up. That's honestly good for markets. I don't think we want any change. I don't think the Jerome Powell is resigning. I think that's a good thing that he's not resigning. August 1st is the tariff deal deadline. We've already seen a bunch of deals get made, and I wouldn't be surprised to get those things pushed off, but maybe it causes a few days of turmoil. And then search history spike correlations with a local top. And actually, I did see that we've had the highest in many, many years, actually, search terms for altcoins been going up. So I'm not really worried about Bitcoin on that front, but I think you got to watch out on the altcoin front because it did get pretty heated there for a second. Those are my plans. Those are where I think you should take profits. And for me, I'm kind of looking at it as each of these is roughly 10%, right? So any of these getting hit, 10%. If multiple are getting hit, it's more. And obviously something like time-based, as we get to the end of that time, it's going to be more than just 10%. If I still have a large position at that point, I'm going to be taking a lot off the table. Okay, so that's how it's looking for me. Develop your own plan. Feel free to use stuff from me or stuff from other creators or whatever you think is best. It is your money, and I suggest you, decide decisively what to do with it, so that at least you don't have regrets. It has been a little bit, I'm like, should I have taken profits around 123? But overall, I've clocked this whole move. I've created this system, and I would have taken maybe 5% profits, so it really isn't a huge impact anyway. And I'm, for now, hanging on, hoping that we get back to new all-time highs. That's what I think is most likely based on the history. It's not guaranteed, but I think it's a strong and probable bet. Okay? Ethereum, I don't know. Will we see 4,000? I think we could in the next few weeks if Bitcoin gets a big move. But again, I think Bitcoin's the place to be for now. I think Ethereum, you will get one more pullback before all-time highs. And I don't know how deep that pullback's going to go. I think it depends how high it goes. I'm not an expert in exact technical analysis, guys, but I will be letting you know kind of as I'm accumulating Ethereum. It will have to do with the Fed and, the cycle timing more than the exact price of ETH. So that's what I wanted to cover for you all. Hopefully you have been not shaken out and not using too much leverage and doing great in Bitcoin. Hopefully you are not one of the many shorts right now in Bitcoin, because once this thing goes, it's going to get aggressive, y'all. Yeah, I appreciate your comments. Would love to hear any thoughts below the video. I would love to hear requests on videos going forward, and I will talk to you all later. Good luck making money. See ya.